Over 2,000 years after its construction, the Parthenon is being carefully taken apart and reassembled, block by massive block. Modern architects are currently working to correct the structural errors left behind by botched 19th-century restorations. As they dismantled the ruins, they discovered an astonishing level of geometric intent. The ancient builders tapered the sides of these columns so precisely that if you extended the lines upward, they would intersect at a single focal point kilometers in the sky. Every stone was executed to the millimeter using only basic tools: compasses, rulers, and plumb lines. They achieved this level of accuracy without the use of paper or modern computers, relying instead on pure geometric calculation. This unprecedented engineering was commissioned by a collective body of citizens rather than a single ruler. Historically, monumental construction on this scale was the exclusive domain of absolute kings or distant deities. Athens' layout was re-engineered to support a system where the citizens themselves held the power. The city was no longer just a backdrop for a monarch, it was a machine built for a new way of living. To understand the origins of the modern world, we must look at how this society was literally carved into the urban geography of this metropolis. The journey begins at the Acropolis. This elevated, rocky citadel served as the impregnable heart of the city, dominating the Athenian landscape from every angle. This is the Propylaea. It functioned as the grand gateway to the summit, marking a shift in how the city utilized its most prominent real estate. Architects designed this gateway with the marble luxury usually reserved for the gods, but focused its use on the residents. It was a secular space built to accommodate the needs of the public. The design included public benches and designated rooms for people to gather for sacrificial meals and conversation, allowing the citizens to enjoy a level of architectural splendor once reserved for the elite. Elevating a public, secular space to this divine standard acted as a physical expression of a self-confident society, one that believed the common man was worthy of a temple's luxury. Descending from the heights brings you to the Agora. This sprawling square was the site of daily life, where the abstract theories of the philosophers met the practical realities of the marketplace. Running a city where leadership rotated every year required intense public record-keeping. Success depended on a literate population and the constant display of laws and financial accounts on stone steles for all to see. The city's administration operated out of these shaded arcades. Here, magistrates managed the water supply and grain markets, while citizens gathered in the stoas to debate the latest news from the Senate. When it came time to vote, the crowd moved to the Pnyx. This open-air assembly place was specifically carved to hold 17,000 people, who would decide the city's future by a direct show of hands. This urban design encouraged the system's survival by making communication unavoidable. Placing open squares and shaded stoas in the heart of the city facilitated the daily, face-to-face exchange of information between the people who held the vote. But step just behind the grand monuments of the Agora, and the environment changed. Most Athenians lived in cramped, dark houses with clay floors, packed tightly into residential quarters with little light or ventilation. This society was supported by a massive population of unfree labor. For every citizen in the assembly, 3 slaves toiled in the heat of the quarries or the silver mines, extracting the wealth that built the city's marble facades. Security was maintained by the navy. At the harbor of Piraeus, 200 of these triremes stood ready. Protecting trade and influence required a constant mobilization of thousands of rowers. This was the grim duty of the city's poorest residents. They spent days below deck in horrific heat, providing the muscle required to keep the Athenian fleet and its economy moving. The philosophical advancements of the city center were effectively subsidized by this invisible exploitation and the reality of near-constant warfare. The ultimate authority in Athens didn't rest with a king, but in the courts. Juries of ordinary citizens held the power of life and death over even the most influential figures. This is best illustrated by the trial of Phryne. A wealthy courtesan who modeled for a statue of the goddess Aphrodite, she was brought before the court on the capital charge of blasphemy. In the climax of the trial, her lawyer realized logic wasn't enough. He exposed her legendary beauty directly to the citizen jury, arguing that such perfection was itself proof of divine favor. The jury voted to acquit. The verdict confirmed that in this city, the balance of law, religion, and power was held entirely in the hands of the voting public. Athenian dominance waned as newer powers like Rome and Alexandria took the lead. The marble temples were slowly abandoned and left to the elements. The physical city fell into ruin, but the architectural experiment of a society built around public space and shared rule became the template for the modern democratic world.